motorhomediaries.com.
Hello, welcome to the Foundation for Economic Education. We like to say freedom's home since 1946. I'm Wayne Olson. I'm privileged to be the chairman of the Board of Trustees of FEE, and I'd like to help show you around. Come on in. Like so many of our friends, our vision is a free society based on individual liberty, free markets, the rule of law, private property, and limited government. We're not exactly a think tank because we don't do policy-related research or advocacy, and we're entirely focused on the educational end. These are the individuals who gathered at the offices of B.F. Goodrich Company in Manhattan in 1946 to establish the Foundation for Economic Education. We have a combination of intellectuals and philanthropists. And Leonard Read in the middle is a combination of both, an organization man, a man of great vision and energy, and a passionate believer in the ideals of liberty. Henry Hazlitt was a self-taught libertarian, a journalist, the champion of the Friedrich Hayek's Road to Serfdom and a popularizer of Frederick Bastiat. We have Leo Wallman, who was a professor of economics at Columbia, and Fred Fairchild, who was a professor of economics at Yale. Working with them to establish this foundation, David Goodrich, the first chairman of the foundation, was chairman of B.F. Goodrich Company, a very far-sighted industrialist and philanthropist. Donaldson Brown was the vice president of General Motors at the time, and Claude Robinson was president of Opinion Research. Business people with vision that knew that it took resources and drive and energy to make these ideas better known. FEE became located here in Irvington, New York, about 25 miles north of Midtown Manhattan, primarily and kind of ironically because of the economic hardships of the New Deal, the income tax, and the Second World War. With rent control and practically no construction going on during the war, office space in New York City was quite scarce, and at the same time the suburbs were full of properties like this, built in the 19th century on a scale that required a staff to maintain, which nobody could afford after the devastating assaults on wealth creation, the income tax, and labor shortages, so that it was available for a reasonable sum. We have the combination of talents that are required for a foundation of this type. Leonard Read, the organizer, believer in self-improvement, and a believer that people are driven to seek the truth and understand what cause they should serve. He himself was brought to the freedom philosophy by a person-to-person conversation with a businessman by the name of William Mullendore, who had been a federal official with Herbert Hoover and Robert Taft, and had become the vice president of Southern California Edison. Read was the president of the Los Angeles branch of the Chamber of Commerce during the 30s, and he supported the New Deal. He held that business and government working together would advance the common good. Read called on Mullendore to try to persuade him of this, and Mullendore ended up persuading him that he was, in effect, on the road to serfdom. You look on the other side, facing Leonard, as Ludwig von Mises, one of the true intellectual giants of the 20th century, an old-world economist, escaped from the Nazis during the war, secured a position at NYU. He became part of the FEE staff and the board from the earliest days. So we've been very much identified with the Austrian School of Economics from our founder. With the Austrians, we view economics not as a narrow and mechanical study of market dynamics, but a moral philosophy of human action under the fact of scarcity of resources. We have a room here that we designate the Leonard Read Room. And here we have pictured many of the correspondents and friends of Leonard Read and people who have graced FEE with their presence over the years. Ronald Reagan here in a famous picture on Air Force One reading the Freeman, Ideas on Liberty, which is exactly the kind of person we're trying to reach with our ideas, an active professional with not a lot of time on his hands, but eager to learn the principles of our point of view. FEE welcomes anybody here who is interested in the principles of liberty. Leonard's correspondents included Ayn Rand, for example, whom he knew in Los Angeles. She told him that FEE was erring by focusing too much of economics, famously saying that the root of the whole problem is philosophical and moral. People are not embracing collectivism because they've accepted bad economics. They're accepting bad economics because they've embraced collectivism. She was a little unfair to Leonard because Fee and the Austrians have always emphasized the moral and philosophical foundations of individualism. But we do also teach the efficiency side of economics, that socialism is not only immoral, it's wrong-headed and impractical and lacking in common sense as a way to satisfy the economic aspirations of the people. Hayek on this wall is particularly important in popularizing and making accessible to a large number of people the freedom philosophy. As a student of Mises, he had a wide-ranging mind and published on many topics. Founded the Mont Pelerin Society in 1947 as a way to advance the cause of freedom in Austrian economics at a time when things look pretty dire. If we head this way to the library, one thing that has never changed in our approach, person-to-person communication. We hold week-long seminars here during the summer in this room for about 80 people, as well as at other venues around the country. We now reach over 600 students a year, introducing people to the freedom philosophy in this manner. This library is a stunning venue, but it illustrates to some extent how we have adapted our business model. This library was once a critical element of our mission because it provided a material for scholars to come here and prepare articles, books, papers, pamphlets, and whatnot. We're now a great deal more focused on internet distribution of material. We also have extensive archives in the basement of this building, commensurate with the size of this library, which we've been working with the Earhart Foundation to catalog them and with the Liberty Fund to ultimately house the collection and make it available online. Book publishing was once a critical element of our mission. Over the years, I think we've probably distributed over 500,000 copies of The Law by Frederick Bastiat and Economics in One Lesson by Henry Hazlitt. I think those are the two best introductions to the freedom philosophy. If you come this way, I'll show you a bit of the property. Let me pause a second by pointing out this section of the library was given to us by Henry Hazlitt. We have about 4.5 acres of property. Our professors very much look forward to socializing with students during the breaks and during the periods after the evening meal. To socialize with students and to answer their questions and get involved in discussions, sometimes very passionate discussions of the philosophical ideals that we've been discussing. One thing we're trying to do, as well as to nourish young minds, is to give people the sense that they're not alone, that there are important relationships and friendships they can form with people of like mind that are as interested in the freedom philosophy. I want to pause over here on a couple of displays of members of the board that will give you just a flavor for the kinds of folks that have been involved and have donated so much time and talent to the organization. Just look at this group of trustees as an example. Ethel May Humphreys, who's an industrialist from Missouri, very generous to many organizations advancing the cause of liberty. Manuel Ayau, who is the founder of the Universidad Francisco Marroquín in Guatemala. Henry Hoyles at the California Publishing family. Ron Paul, a physician from Texas that became very interested in libertarian ideals and a longtime member of Congress, candidate for president. Steve Sims, a two-term senator from Idaho in the 80s and 90s. Ned Galoon from Milwaukee, a very successful industrialist and a very generous supporter of Fee over the years. Here on this wall, we have a selection of covers from back issues of the Freeman, Ideas on Liberty, our monthly magazine, which is a unique publication which offers education, intellectual ammunition for people who are interested in learning more about our philosophy. We have the full archives of the Freeman online and searchable at thefreemanonline.org. We touch on current issues of the day, but we don't seek to be an advocacy organization with respect to policy questions per se. We're trying to show the fallacies of the collectivist idea and the moral underpinnings of the individualist approach.